Hello friends, welcome back to our channel. Today we'll explain a cybercrime movie called Blackhat, released in 2015. In this movie, we'll see a hacker group hack 3 banks simultaneously and steal $74 million. Their hacking method is so advanced and complex that the police are forced to seek the help of a jailed hacker. The story's ending is full of twists and suspense, which will leave you stunned, so be sure to watch the video until the end. The story begins with a nuclear power station in Hong Kong. Someone hacked the control system and turned off all the cooling fans. This caused the power station to overheat, causing a massive explosion. Many people were injured and several were killed. This news was shown on all news channels. Then we see Alex, the police's cybersecurity head. Alex is in a meeting with his senior officers about the explosion. There he explains that someone hacked the power plant system and used malware called RAT, which can be remotely controlled. This malware cannot be inserted into any system via the internet. Therefore, someone must have entered the power plant and manually inserted the malware into the system. So now we have to find the person who did this. But surprisingly, the hackers neither demanded any money from anyone, nor threatened to kill anyone. This clearly indicates that their intentions were ulterior. Meanwhile, in another scene, we see a young man named Nick in a prison in America. Because Nick was found with a phone, the prison officials remove him from his cell and interrogate him, suspecting he is a hacker and may be involved in the power plant hacking. However, when they find nothing on Nick, they put him back in the cell. The scene shifts and we see China's cybersecurity office. 2 officers, Carol and Henry, are discussing Alex. Alex graduated from MIT, America's largest university in computer science, and his sister, Leanne, also graduated from MIT in network engineering. Meanwhile, Alex is sitting at home observing the code being run by hackers when he sees something familiar, shocking him. Later, he meets his sister Leanne and says, "When I was studying at MIT, a friend and I wrote some hacking code together, and these hackers are using the same code, so I need your help investigating this case." Meanwhile, the next day, hackers launched a cyber attack on a stock exchange. During a meeting in the cybersecurity office, a man named Daniel explains the cyber attack on the stock exchange, saying that 2 types of code were used in the attack. First, someone pushed malware into the system. Later, another piece of malware called payload was inserted through the same hack. Looking at the code, it appears that the 2 codes were written by 2 different people. Alex then takes Carol and Gunnery into a separate room and tells them that the hackers used the code he wrote to hack. He explains that he wrote this code during his college days and his friend Nick was with him. He's a great hacker and they need his help on this case, but neither of them was willing to believe Alex. The next day, Carol comes to Alex with another report of a theft, telling him that hackers have attacked 4 banks simultaneously, stealing a total of $46 million. They're now moving towards the financial markets, and they need to catch them as soon as possible. Alex again mentions his friend Nick. This time, Carol agrees and sends someone to fetch Nick. However, Nick sets one condition before working with them. He says, "I'll work with you guys, but in return, you'll have to pardon all my sentences and release me from prison." The man replies, "Your condition will only be met if you catch the hackers." Nick then meets Alex and Carol outside the prison. Alex's sister Leanne is also present. As they board the plane back to China, Alex shows Nick the code used by the hackers. However, Carol becomes a little irritated by the laptop in Nick's hands, still unsure of him. After Alex and Leanne convince her, she relents. Nick then analyzes the hacker's code after reviewing the stock exchange servers. He reveals that someone physically entered the stock exchange and then used it to insert another virus into the system. Hearing this, Carol asks the staff if anyone has recently left the company. They discover that a man named Alonzo recently left the company and had access to the system. Hearing this, Nick realizes that Alonzo planted the virus. Nick extracts more information about Alonzo from Henry. Nick tells everyone that these hackers aren't hacking for money like others. They have a different motive. We need to meet Alonzo as soon as possible and get information from him. It must be a colony. Nick, Alex, and Leanne then go to Alonzo's house. But upon arriving, they discover that Alonzo is dead. Upon searching his house, they find several hacking tools. Checking Alonzo's computer, Nick discovers that he was chatting with someone. Nick sends a message to that person using Alonzo's ID and invites him to a restaurant. Meanwhile, Carol and Alex meet with Gary, a senior official at the stock exchange. Carol says, "We need all the data on the people trading on your exchange. We'll see if it can provide any clues," but Gary refuses to give the data. Then Carol threatens to expose some of his past activities. Finally, Gary is forced to give the data. Meanwhile, Nick and Leanne are waiting at the restaurant where they were invited to meet during their chat. Leanne asks Nick, "Why were you in jail?" Nick explains that he used to steal money by hacking bank systems. But one day, he was caught and sentenced to 13 years in prison. During their conversation, Nick realizes that they have been sitting there for quite some time, but no one has come to meet them. This makes him suspicious. He goes to a cabin behind the restaurant and sees a motion-sensing camera monitor. Nick realizes that the hackers have indeed been there, and that they have been watching him for quite some time. Nick tries to speak to the hacker through the computer there, but the hacker curses him and disconnects the line. Nick then tries to leave with Leanne. Just then, some men enter the restaurant and attack them. However, Nick fights back, defeats them, and escapes with Leanne. Meanwhile, Carol and Alex are checking the client data at the stock exchange. They notice that a total total of $74 million has been transferred simultaneously between 3 banks. All of those banks are located in Hong Kong. Nick calls Alex and tells him that the hackers used Alonzo to discover their identities. So instead of following that clue, they should track the money transactions. Only then will they be able to reach the hackers faster. Alex then asks his sister Leanne to pick Nick up and fly to Hong Kong the next morning. The next morning, Nick and Leanne prepare to leave. But on that same day, another nuclear power plant suddenly explodes. After arriving, Alex and his team question the power plant staff. They ask whether the hackers made any demands or asked for money when they hacked the system and caused the explosion. The staff deny that any demands were made. Leanne explains that when a machine suddenly shuts down, it saves important information to an instant memory hard drive. Checking that information might reveal the hacker's real IP address. The staff then reveal that the hard drive is located in their server room. However, the area is extremely hot, making it impossible to enter at the moment. The 3 then meet a police officer named Tech, who has been tracking the hackers for some time. Tech explains that the hackers are operating through 3 different routes, but they never meet each other directly. Nick discovers that all 3 routes eventually converge at one point. They decide to search that area. There they find a pickup van that is being monitored by the police. Tech reports that a man named Kassar sits at a restaurant every day waiting for someone. However, he never meets anyone. Instead, he sends a message and then leaves. This raises Nick's suspicions, and he believes the hackers are using a short-range device to communicate. So he goes to the restaurant and waits. But after a long time, when nothing suspicious happens, Nick uses Tech's phone to check the local Wi-Fi signals. By tracing the signal, he discovers a short-range Bluetooth transmitter. Returning to the van, Nick explains that Kassar was not sending messages directly to anyone while sitting in the restaurant. Instead, he was entering a code into a Bluetooth transmitter. When his team members passed nearby, they received the code, and the hidden message was delivered to them. Carol suggests capturing Kassar and using him to reach the others. But Alex says that even if he is caught, he will not reveal anything. It would be better to keep following him. When the right time comes, they will be able to extract all the information from him. The next morning, a police unit monitors Kassar from a rooftop. However, Kassar becomes aware of their presence and quickly escapes. Meanwhile, Alex's team monitors 3 banks in Hong Kong and observes money being transferred from all 3 banks at the same time. By tracking the transactions, they discover that the money is being withdrawn at a Chinese casino. Alex splits the team into 2 groups. He takes Nick and heads toward Kassar's hideout by helicopter. When the police team arrives at Kassar's hideout, they discover that he has already escaped. During the search, they discover a hidden tunnel. One team moves into the tunnel to capture him. Meanwhile, Alex and Nick, along with another team, arrive at the tunnel's exit point. Kassar and his team kill several people inside the tunnel and come out from the other side. Alex's team immediately opens fire on them. During the intense gunfight, Tech is struck by a bullet and collapses. Kassar manages to escape again. He takes a speedboat and flees through the water. He later reaches the open sea and hands over the bags full of money to a cargo ship. Meanwhile, Alex receives a call from the power plant in Hong Kong. They inform him that the server room has cooled down significantly. They say that if he wants, he can now go inside and retrieve the hard drive. Alex arrives there with his team. As they put on their protective suits and prepare to enter, a staff member warns them that the temperature inside is still extremely high. He tells them that they will not be able to stay inside for more than 8 minutes, so they must work quickly and come out. Alex and Nick enter the room along with a staff member. However, as soon as they step inside the server room, the staff member faints because of the extreme heat. Nick immediately tells Alex to take him outside. Nick decides to stay behind and retrieve the hard drive himself. He breaks open the server storage with an axe and finally retrieves the hard drive. After examining the recovered hard drive, they discover that half of the data has been damaged by radiation. Because of this damage, the data cannot be fully recovered. Nick then asks Carol, "Whenever I hack banks, I always delete my code. So how were you able to recover mine?" Carol replies, "The NSA has a software program called Black Widow. We used it to recover your code." However, she adds that she is not sure whether the US government will allow them to use it in a case involving China. Still, she says she will try. Carol then calls an NSA agent and asks for access to Black Widow. The agent refuses and says that recovering the code without that software is impossible. Nick then says that he can gain access by hacking into Black Widow. Carol is shocked to hear this and warns him that it is extremely risky. She says that if the NSA finds out, they will not let him live. Nick replies that they have no other option. He then asks her to give him the name of a senior officer. "I'll use him to access the system." Using the name of a senior officer named Richard, Nick commands Black Widow to change his password. As soon as Richard changes the password, Nick receives the new password. Nick logs into the software and begins recovering the hacker's code. After recovering the code, Nick obtains an IP address. By tracing the IP address, he discovers that the location is in Jakarta. However, the hacker's site is highly secure, so he cannot access it directly. Leanne then checks the transaction ID and discovers that the hacker has purchased a satellite photo of a location in Malaysia by making multiple payments to a satellite company. Hearing this, Nick becomes confused about why the hacker would want a photo of that location. Meanwhile, the NSA discovers that the Black Widow software has been used. They report this to Alex's senior officer. The senior officer tells Alex, "You've taken a huge risk by bringing Nick onto your team, and I don't want our reputation damaged in front of the NSA." He orders Alex to hand Nick over to the Americans as soon as possible and solve the case on his own. Alex then secretly messages Leanne, telling her to escape with Nick. Meanwhile, Henry angrily calls Carol and tells her that Nick must be removed from the case. Later, Alex meets Leanne and Nick at a secret location. He tells them, "I'm not handing you over to the Americans, but Carol and Henry will try to find you, so we should go to Jakarta separately and meet there." But as Leanne and Nick step out of the car, Kassar suddenly blows up Alex's car with a rocket launcher. Leanne breaks down in tears as she watches her brother die before her eyes. Meanwhile, Carol arrives at the scene, and a gunfight breaks out with Kassar. However, during the gunfight, Carol is shot and dies on the spot. Seeing the situation, Nick escapes from there with Leanne. They meet a mechanic who helps remove the tracking device from Nick's leg. Leanne also arranges fake passports for them. Nick and Leanne then board a private jet and fly to Jakarta. They head toward the suspicious location. After arriving there, they discover that it is a tin mining area. Nick finally understands the hacker's entire plan. The hackers attacked the Hong Kong power plant mainly to test whether anyone could track them. It was only a test, but their real plan is to hack the power plant in this area as well. After that, they plan to destroy the largest dam nearby, which would flood all the tin mines. This would create a massive shortage of tin in the market, causing its price to skyrocket. The hackers plan to invest the stolen $74 million into tin shares, and when the price of tin rises dramatically, they will make an enormous profit overnight. Nick then sneaks into a tin mining office and secretly steals important data. After examining the stolen data, he discovers that the hackers have deposited the money in a local bank. Nick sends Leanne to the local bank. There, Leanne tells the bank employee that she has an important meeting coming up, but her pen drive is not working. She asks the employee if he can check the pen drive on the system. The bank employee connects the pen drive to the computer. As soon as he does, Nick gains complete control of the bank server. Nick then transfers the hackers $74 million from that bank to a Swiss bank account. He also leaves a message for Kassar saying, "If you want your money back, contact me." Kassar later calls him. Nick tells him, "I know you have a boss, and if you want your money back, you will have to let me speak with him." Kassar then connects Nick with his boss, Tran. Tran asks, "What do you want?" Nick replies, "I want a share in your upcoming project." Tran says, "All right, I am ready to give you a share, but first I want to meet you." Nick agrees to the meeting. However, Nick knows very well that Tran will not actually give him any share and will try to betray him, so he goes to the meeting fully prepared. When Nick arrives, Kassar points a gun at him. Kassar was the one who killed Alex, Nick's best friend. Nick fights back and kills Kassar to avenge Alex's death. Soon, heavy gunfire breaks out and Nick is shot several times. However, he survives because he is wearing a bulletproof vest. Nick manages to eliminate most of the attackers. Then Tran, the mastermind behind everything, appears. He manages to wound Nick during the confrontation. In the end, Nick succeeds in killing Tran and escapes from the location. Nick later reaches Leanne, the woman he loves. Leanne treats his wounds. After recovering, they both decide to leave the country. They travel to an unknown location where the authorities cannot easily find them. Nick also still has the $74 million that he transferred into his Swiss bank account. This means he now has more than enough money to live comfortably. And with this, the story of the movie comes to an end. Thanks for watching.